Are you tired of being left out of conversations about Brexit? Well, that's history, because we're breaking down this confusing topic for you. But what exactly is Brexit, and are there many benefits to this historic event? On June 23rd of 2016, the United Kingdom decided to part ways with the European Union, leading to a flurry of negotiations and changes to trade agreements, border restrictions, and more. So grab a cuppa and let's dive into the nitty-gritty details of Brexit. Who knows, maybe by the end of this video you might even impress your friends with your newfound knowledge. Thanks for stopping by at Proactive Investing. Today we will see why the cost of Brexit did not outweigh the benefits. We know, the thought of talking about economics might make your eyes glaze over, but trust us, this is a topic worth paying attention to. Let's make a deal together. At any point in this video, if we interest you, you'll subscribe to Proactive Investing. Sounds like a fair deal, don't you think? Getting onto the video topic, what exactly is Brexit? As you probably know, Brexit refers to the United Kingdom's decision to leave the European Union, or the EU, the British exit. The UK was part of the EU for more than 40 years before deciding to leave. The idea of leaving the EU was first discussed in the UK in the early 2010s, but it wasn't until 2016 that a formal vote was held to decide the country's future with the EU. On June 23rd of 2016, a majority of US citizens voted to leave the EU. Even though Britain first voted to leave the EU in 2016, its exit from customs union and single market was finally resolved in 2020 when both parties ultimately opted for a free trade agreement. From 2016 to 2020, the UK and the EU have been negotiating the terms of their separation. This included things like trade agreements and border control. The United Kingdom could choose for different types of Brexit. One of them is the so-called hard Brexit. In a nutshell, it means that the UK is saying goodbye to its membership in the customs union and the single market, giving them more power to create their own trade agreements and laws. Even those who wanted to stay in the EU can see the benefits of regaining sovereignty. Can you imagine having a complete control over your own borders? Well, that's what a hard Brexit brings back to the table for the UK. But with great power comes great responsibility. You see, due to the EU's laws on immigration, a citizen of another EU country can easily choose to live in the UK. And with that, the UK has been seeing a significant increase in immigration, putting a strain on housing and service demands. From 2021, UK citizens are required a visa if they wish to stay in the EU for more than 90 days in 180 days, ending the freedom to work and reside between the UK and the EU. But wait, there's more. In Northern Ireland, things are a little more complicated. To prevent a hard border with the Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland has to stick with a whole bunch of EU regulations. This means additional inspections for products coming from the rest of the UK into Northern Ireland. But don't worry, there's a silver lining. Now that the UK is no longer part of the EU, they get to choose their own trade policies and negotiate with countries like the US, Australia, and New Zealand. Who needs the EU when you've got friends like these, you might think? Well, you'll soon take these words back. The fall of the British pound. On the day of the Brexit referendum results, the pound hit a 31-year low. Investors were pretty apprehensive about the UK's future, but over the next year, the pound gained some value. But once Brexit transition proposals were made public and rejected, the pound took another dip. A lower value of the currency might sound great for exports, but the pound's volatility is its major red flag for investors. It's not exactly an attractive destination for investing in fixed income securities, and foreign direct investments, or FDIs, might just stall. Trade barriers. The implications of Brexit for businesses in the UK and abroad are no joke. Trade barriers have made things pretty difficult for imports and exports and linked to labour shortages and investment problems. The workforce and the corporate sector are feeling the heat of inflation, and workers are striking in large numbers about conditions and earnings. To fill the gap in its budget, the British government is lowering tax hikes and expenditures, but it's not making the cost of living crisis any easier to solve. Experts in trade policy are pointing their fingers at Brexit as the most likely cause of Britain's subpar performance compared to its peers. While it might not be the primary cause of the UK's cost of living crisis, it's definitely making things more difficult to resolve. Although the British people chose to leave the European Union in a vote, the government chose an exceedingly abrasive form of Brexit, increasing the financial burden. And there is no chance the Brexit agreement will have a positive economic impact. With that said, we've reached the middle of this video, and we saw what Brexit is and how it impacts the EU and the UK economies. Let's look into some of the other negative effects that Brexit had and still has on some of the United Kingdom. But don't forget our deal. If you'd like to, feel free to subscribe to our channel. Economic instability. The past few years have been a struggle for small businesses, with a 30% drop in the variety of goods shipped from Britain to the EU just 1 year after Brexit deal went into effect. It's tough out there for small exporters who are just trying to make it in a niche EU market. According to a recent survey of over 1,168 businesses, a whopping 77% reported that the Brexit deal did nothing to help them grow their customer base or operations. And what about new trade agreements? Well, Britain has struck some new deals with New Zealand and Australia, but don't get too excited just yet. These agreements are a partial rollovers of the ones that they had as an EU member, and the government estimates that they'll only have a negligible impact on the British economy. With GDP projected to rise by just 0.1% and 0.03% respectively, it's looking like the UK may be headed for a lost decade. Labour shortages. Labour shortages have become a big issue for the UK since Brexit. With the end of the freedom of movement between the UK and the EU, businesses are finding it harder to recruit workers that they need. And it's not just the kind of work that requires a PhD or a PhD in sarcasm, but also lower skilled jobs like fruit picking, construction, and hospitality. It's a tough situation because businesses are already struggling to keep up with the demands of a post-Brexit economy, and labour shortages are just making it worse. With fewer workers, businesses have to turn down work, and that means lost income. It also means longer waiting times for customers, less efficient service, and lower quality products. But it's not just businesses that are feeling this squeeze. The workers themselves are also suffering. With fewer job opportunities, workers have to accept lower wages or work longer hours to make ends meet. It's a double whammy because not only are they working harder for less, but the cost of living has gone up since Brexit too. It's a real shame because the UK has a lot of talented and hard-working people, but the labour shortage means that many of them are being left behind. The government needs to take action to make sure that businesses have the workers that they need, but also that the workers have the rights and protection that they deserve. Because at the end of the day, a labour shortage doesn't just mean less productivity, it means less happiness, and who wants that? What other negative effects on Brexit can you name? Comment them down below. Now that we've covered the biggest downsides, the question you probably have is, will Britain ever recover from Brexit? Well, it's like trying to fix a jigsaw puzzle with half the pieces missing. It might take a while, but when done with the right strategy and a little patience, it can be achieved. Brexit has had a significant impact on the UK economy, causing uncertainty, volatility, and a decrease in foreign investment. Businesses are hesitant to invest and expand, causing a slowdown in economic growth. In addition, the country is facing labour shortages as the free movement of people from the EU has come to an end. With Brexit, many skilled workers have returned to their home countries, making it harder for the UK businesses to find workers they need to succeed. But despite all of these challenges, there is hope. The UK has a strong and resilient economy, and its innovative spirit will help it bounce back. The country has the opportunity to forge new trade deals with countries outside the EU and focus on growing its domestic market. By investing in education and skills training, the UK can also address its labour shortages and create a strong workforce for the future. In conclusion, Britain will absolutely recover from Brexit. It might take time, but with the right approach and a little bit of optimism, the UK can get back on track and soar to new heights. Just remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and the UK won't recover from Brexit overnight. With a little bit of elbow grease and a positive attitude, the future looks bright. And there you have it, folks. We've covered all the highs and lows of Brexit. What's your take on it all? Are you feeling the benefits, or is it all just a little bit of a mess? We'd love to hear your thoughts on Brexit agreement down in the comment section below. But now that we've come to the end of the video, do you remember the deal we made? If you found this video interesting, then subscribe to Proactive Investing and we'll keep in touch with each other on a weekly basis. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.